There's always been something uniquely fascinating about the African Cup of Nations. The ultimate African footballing event almost always presents fans and viewers alike with scintillating moments both on and off the pitch. When it isn't doing that, AFCON creates the most bizarre bits of history that feel like something out of a comic book. So here's some of my favourite weirdest fun facts about Africa's premier competition. Picture this. It's the AFCON 2015 and the Ivory Coast are in the finals of the tournament against Ghana. The game has gone to extra time and penalties, and even then, nothing is set in stone. So it comes down to the keepers of each side to clinch the game for their nation. Copa Barry, the Ivorian goalie, managed to keep out his counterpart from Ghana, but remained firmly stapled to the ground afterwards. Upon inspection, Barry complained about cramps, urging the officials to let someone else take his kick instead. As you can imagine, it was quite the scene for both players and fans. Enter Jibril Kamara, the assistant referee. Upon observing the scene, he decided that the Ivorian goalie was nothing but a theatre student doing his best to fake an injury, and thus give a better penalty taker the chance to clinch victory for his side. Yaya Toure, the Ivorian captain, was stepping up to take the kick, but Jibril consulted with Papa Gassama, the central judge, on his findings. The duo refused the change. In an interview 3 years later, the assistant referee revealed, "I approached him to convince him. I told him, this is the second time you're playing in the African Cup final. You lost the first one. Today you are one of the oldest members of the Ivorian team. There is only one shot left to win your side the Continental Trophy. You have to take responsibility for the penalty. If you score the winning goal, you'll be a hero at home. It will be an opportunity to finish your international career in style." Jibril's words appear to have a mark on the dramatic keeper, who soon stepped up to take the penalty. As fate would have it, Copa Barry converted from the spot, clinching the title for the Ivory Coast. Kamara concluded his tale with, "When he scored that winning goal, he sprinted when his teammates chased him. I thought to myself that an injured man couldn't do that sprinting. He wanted to make things difficult for us, and I was smart enough not to fall into his trap." As a regulatory and overseeing body, the Confederation of Africa Football has as much controversial history as its bigger older brother FIFA. So, when it comes to sports washing, is it any surprise that the CAF has its finger in the pie as an enabler? At the moment, one of the most talked about and divisive topics is climate change. So naturally, crude oil companies are considered public enemy number one when it comes to their impact on the planet. So it was quite the shocker to find the AFCON tournament and other CAF competitions being backed by French oil and gas giant Total Energies since 2016. We can't help but wonder if CAF has a different take on climate change and its effects on the continent and its people. Just before the AFCON 2023 kicked off in 2024, yeah, you heard that right, CAF announced ticket sales, which were surprisingly up by a significant amount. This proved to potential sponsors just how massive the competition was and helped attract even more fans and viewers. However, when the tournament began in earnest, the turnout of fans was abysmal. Stadiums looked similar to crowds former Liverpool captain Jordan Henderson played for before abandoning the Saudi project for Ajax. If that wasn't weird enough, fans struggled to purchase tickets, and rumours started to circulate in social media about potential black market dealers. The ever-controversial CAF was quick to dismiss the rumours, insisting that the setback was due to a printing issue as last-minute orders went through the roof, apparently. Olivier Giroud is one of those players with an unusual career. He flies under the radar most of the time, then turns up in the most insane fashion, either by emerging as the all-time highest goal scorer for a French national side with stars like Mbappe and past legends like Zidane and Henry, or even replacing the goalie in his AC Milan side and keeping a clean sheet. Yeah, that did happen. Something similar to goalie Giroud occurred in an AFCON match when all three goalkeepers that Comoros brought to the competition were ruled out with COVID. To make up for this unprecedented problem in the squad, the coach fielded Shaka Aladar, an outfielder who had never played as a goalie in his entire career. According to Jean-Daniel Padovani, the goalkeeping coach of the unfortunate Comoros side, Aladar was picked for his availability and leadership skills. To add more problems to the already weakened team, a mere 6 minutes into the match, one of the Comoros players was slapped a red card, leaving them to play with 10 men and an outfield goalie in the net. However, rather than concede enough goals to make Andre Onana jealous, the Comoros side lost the match by a respectable 2-1. It was no surprise that the most common sentiment during and after the match was, only in AFCON. Alassane Ouattara, president of the Ivory Coast, may have borrowed a thing or two from the playbook of some of the most renowned dictators in the world, hosting a huge sporting event to help put a new spin on his rather unflattering public perception. Is it any surprise that the 82-year-old chose to host the tournament just at the twilight of his controversial third term in office? And with the Ivory Coast going on to win the final against Nigeria, he might have played a winning move to help secure another term in office. For now though, he's brought untold joy to his people, even attracting the attention of the United States, who wasted no time in dispatching high-ranking diplomat Antony Blinken to help improve American influence in the region. The 2021 AFCON tournament was a stuff of nightmares when Tunisia faced Mali in a match that ended 1-0 to the latter's advantage. On paper, this looks like a fairly straightforward match. However, in reality, it was anything but. It all came down to the biggest refereeing blunder of the tournament when Gianni Sikazwe, an experienced Zambian official who had officiated the 2017 Cup of Nations final, made several bizarre decisions that left everyone scratching their heads. The first blunder was that he called a water break a little bit too late, which is forgivable. What wasn't was when he signalled for added time, adding 11 more minutes to the match. A debatable call, yes, but not enough for anyone to cast doubt on his abilities, yet. Then he made another debatable call in brandishing a red card, a rather harsh decision for the erring player, as most argued. Even after being called up to review his decision on VAR, the Zambian official ran past the review booth. However, it wasn't until he blew for an end to the match in the 85th minute that things came to a head. Even then, the incident was chucked up to a timekeeping error and the match was restarted. But Sikazwe was barely done with his wrong calls for the day, because he again blew the final whistle before the clock struck 90 minutes. Never mind the 11 additional minutes he'd added earlier. Naturally, Tunisia were furious and stormed off the pitch, with their officials calling on CAF for a replay. To everyone's surprise, CAF upheld the referee's decision and rejected the replay petition. The match was then deemed complete and post-match news and conferences began in earnest as the Man of the Match trophy was handed out. But it doesn't end there. Some 40 minutes after the match ended, CAF overturned its decision and offered 4 more minutes of playing time. The Malian side took back to the pitch, but their opponents refused to show up. It was up to Gianni Sikazwe to blow his whistle for the third time that day to signal the end of a match that had already ended twice. Most football competitions have favourites to win, dark horses and much-watched teams. And when teams in these categories fail to win or qualify as expected, it's called an upset. However, this sentiment doesn't exist in AFCON. Sound impossible? Well, it's not. What if I told you that despite winning the competition in 2019, Algeria finished bottom of its group in the most recent tournament, even losing to Mauritania, who are ranked 105th in the world? Need we mention that even tournament hosts the Ivory Coast, who went on to win the tournament, themselves almost lost to Equatorial Guinea, a side led by a 34-year-old player plying his trade in the lower leagues of Spanish football? Or even that tournament favourites like Ghana and Egypt were knocked out quicker than they could blink. As a tournament, AFCON is pure chaos and defies all logic. It renders every and all punditry and predictions irrelevant from the first kick of the ball. That you're a defending champion or a title favourite couldn't matter any less.